I just did another episode on my own channel about how the history books are going to write about this deal because Dorsey stepped down, Prague takes over, and then ends up in a hostile takeover 4 or 5 months later. So, I just don't know how this one's going to go. When's the last time you've seen that happen, Kane?
I can't think of any examples. Just a crazy story.
Crazy story. But it's one of those stories anyways. So what's your 2-year prediction on this?
I feel like it's an interesting thing as a private company. I don't know what I think he's got to re-IPO the thing in a couple of years.
Yeah,
that would be kind of my prediction.
Dennis?
I'm with Kane. I think the momentum is going to be there in terms of users. I think there's a whole large crowd of folks that might be interested in just joining the platform now, just because Elon is the owner of it. So I could see that happening, as Kane mentioned.
I think people mistake this for just a political power play. What has Elon done where he hasn't tried to make a boatload of money?
Right, that's who he is.
It's give me a major innovation you've seen Twitter do in the last 5 years. Hey Siri, play the Jeopardy music.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Ticketed spaces or whatever they're called. I don't know.
I mean, I can't. For what I consider what the bar is for innovation at 2020 and 2022, they've done nothing. I think Facebook's kind of suffering from the same fate right now. Whole other conversation. But there has been no innovation over at Twitter, and I think the stock got pounded into the ground. Elon obviously doesn't like Prague for it seems like many reasons, and he's like, okay, I can get this at a quote unquote cheap price, and there's opportunity to clean it up, restore free speech, possibly get away from the Wall Street advertising type model and go toward the subscription model. And then there's these other aspects of it, such as what can we do with Web3 and blockchain? How do we integrate this in with other like cryptocurrencies? They already probably have 5 ideas that they want to execute in the next 18 months that will bring, daily functional changes to the platform that make it a more usable platform, but other innovations that are going to leverage the Web3 blockchain type technologies that's going to create more value. Then I think in 2 years, they re-IPO, they do that Snapchat type structure, which I don't know off the top of my head exactly what it was, but they had 2 classes of shares. First class of shares gets 10 votes for every share, and that's Elon. And then the second class is the, public shares. He goes public, he'll still control the company because they'll have the class structure. And he's probably going to IPO at a crazy amount of money. In his mind, I'm thinking that's his plan. Doesn't mean it'll happen. But he's going to play flip this house with Twitter and, cement himself in the history books as the, paragon of free speech.
Yeah,
I think so too. I'm with you on. There's probably a half a dozen ideas out there of what they want to do with Twitter. I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow integrated it with Tesla. Somehow added another feature to it. I mean, there's so many things that he can do. He's not just spending $44 billion just because.
Kane, on the Daggerfin, you're doing marketing, employer branding, growth. You're $100 million. Your client's $100 million company. Twitter says you can buy a special type of Twitter where you're verified. And you got other things you can do on it off your profile, maybe it's click here, more buttons, more. I don't know what the features are, right? How much would you pay to have your own platform on Twitter as $100 million company?
Oh, tons. I mean, Twitter at its best is it's a really strong PR vehicle. I mean, think of how much just value Elon has taken from his following on Twitter. You know, even if you think of Donald Trump and how much value that he generated off of Twitter. I think if you do it well, Twitter is like a PR vehicle unlike any other. So yeah, do it whatever amount of money it takes to get a platform on there.
All right, so you're flying, you got a bad flight experience, you can't get through to somebody.
Yeah.
Where's the first place people go to air it out?
Yeah, Twitter.
They go to Twitter. Could you innovate Twitter to also be a customer service platform for companies, for example?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's other, now would you spend $10,000 to $50,000 a year for $100 million company?
No question.
To have a customer service platform to help deal with these conversations. Like, there's things you could do to get more money out of the corporate world other than running ads, which as a digital marketing agency that Twitter ROI the ROI on Twitter ads usually not that great, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you're $1 billion company, how much would you pay for that portal?
Yeah, tons.
You'd pay a ton. So there's opportunities to get away from this 100% ad-driven model on Twitter. Can you get to the point where you have a higher quality audience where it actually makes it worth spending more money to be on the platform? Again, no innovation. Didn't they extend the tweet size at one point?
Yeah.
That's not innovation. You're just you're doing stuff you should have done from the get-go.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think to me, just kind of jumping back a little bit to what you guys were saying about the future plans, what they do as a private company, I think they've got to clean up their business model. So whatever they do there, they've got to try and generate a little bit more cash flow. But stock prices, so I'm thinking when it re-IPOs, how does it go? How does it perform better than it has for the last decade or whatever, however long it's been a public company? The stock prices are typically a function of two things. You've got your financial fundamentals, and then also this like storytelling element. So think Jeff Bezos and what he's done with Amazon. But Elon Musk in Tesla is another example of a master storyteller. So you can cover up a lot of the fundamentals of a company by telling a beautiful story, and people will buy into the story and pay you a premium for that story. Twitter, if done well, I think has this kind of big story that can be told about the platform. I mean, how people read their news, how people consume information. And with Elon at the top of that, who is, alongside Jeff Bezos, probably the master storyteller, when it comes to running a company. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they re-IPO very quickly just to tap into the fact that this guy can tell a story and then jack up the stock price.
He re-IPOs when he has something that will give it that tech hype. He's not going to just do a subscription base and give you an edit button and re-IPO for 80 billion.
That's true. So that goes back to your Web3 stuff. Yeah.
Maybe it's something beyond that. We don't know, but they have something because this is what they do. It will be disappointing if all they're going to do is not disappointed. It needed to get cleaned up. They needed to get back to free speech. They want to make the algorithm more public. So it's back to what Parag said in that thing of when he was like, we don't have to focus on free speech. We're about the conversation and who we amplify, or whatever he said. And it's a question of who is the algorithm amplifying right now? It's one of those things that people get frustrated, right? If you're on Instagram, you got 100,000 followers and you make a post and then you get 200 likes. And it's like, I could post a picture of a blade of grass with 100,000 followers and get more than 200 likes. And this is where the algorithms are very frustrating. So, he wants to open source the algorithm, show who's getting amplified. you fix all that, and then it's like, well, what's next beyond that? Like, open sourcing algorithms not going to help you IPO for 60 billion, right?
Yeah.
They have some other idea. What are you thinking, Dennis?
No, I mean the whole thing about, I was going to make a joke about, he wanting to do like the first tweet from Mars or something like that. Is the reason why he's taking over Twitter. But in terms of like algorithm, I think I read an article somewhere, and I don't know what kind of study was done, but because of the whole political spectrum and everything being politicized all the time, it was saying something like Google had suppressed like a conservative views or campaigns like a ridiculous amount more than they did on the more liberal side of things. And it's like you start thinking of like what these tech companies can really do and how it affects anything, whether it's politics or something that you're just against, going against the grain. And it's like you start losing that free speech, and I don't think a lot of people are thinking like what the long-term effects that will have. And I'm not even sure this is really the reason why he's even buying Twitter or not, but I think it's giving some folks some hope.
I mean, there was a joke out there, and I don't even know, something like Babylon Bee. They do satire. There's tweets out there that this all started because the Babylon Bee got suspended for something, I don't know. And then I guess there's a tweet out there from Elon or something, and he called Babylon Bee. Like, I didn't fully understand the whole story, but it's just one of those things that I don't think he liked where things were going and how much control it has over society, especially when one platform can decide on who it wants to amplify. But again, like, I made that joke before. It's, do we ever have Trump if Obama doesn't crack that joke at that dinner, right?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thought. Yeah.
And in that same way, is that kind of where there's some little spark, and maybe it was the Babylon Bee that set off Elon or something Parag said about free speech. But I've seen crazy stuff happen in life that started with the littlest spark, right? That's an ember so small that if you sneezed on it, it would have went out. And goddamn, did it like set up, a four-state forest fire. And you just wonder, is like, this is what happens when you get $300 billion when someone irritates you. They'll just buy you out.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, think of all the trouble that Elon has been with the SEC because of Twitter. Not now, but like, when he said that he had funding secured.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. Yeah, maybe it's just like you said, a small thing that's pissed him off, and this is his solution.
The problem is, like, the free speech part's not a small thing. And I think the way Twitter was trending, the people that it was helping, they didn't really care about free speech because it was helping them. And you don't realize one day the people at Twitter might believe something else that's against you. And then all of a sudden, it's like that dog that's been loyal for 5 years and then ends up biting you in the face. And then you go, I can't believe it just bit me in the face. And I'm like, no, that dog went dog.
Yeah.
Like, it's a dog. But, for the 5 years, it was, oh, he's licking my face. He's giving me kisses. It's like, no, he's just trying to figure out how good you're going to taste later. So, like, that's how I feel about Twitter at this moment, where it's going a certain way, and the people who want it that way were happy. They're not realizing that can come back to bite you when Twitter believes something else that you don't believe, and all of a sudden now you don't like the free speech aspect so much. This is why free speech is so important. The issue here is with Elon. I think, he said if we scare off the far right 10% and the far left 10%, we're probably in a good place. Like,
yeah.
But it's one of those things that, like, for example, when Chipotle had the lettuce issue, or you're like, all right, I'm not feeling this, I'm just going to go to Qdoba. And I think that's what happened when a lot of people weren't liking what's going on Twitter, so they started going to other platforms. but you got to the other platforms and they kind of sucked. And you're like, I don't really want to be here. I want Chipotle without getting sick, right? And I think that's Twitter. They were scaring people off the platform. You're watching the stock get hammered because they didn't like what was going on at Twitter. They go to the other platforms, and the other platforms are like, I'm not liking this so much. I just want to go back to Twitter and be in a fair place. And I think if they can just get Twitter to not be this ugly place, everyone's going to be there. And they're going to have the traffic and the subscribers. People will spend more money on ad dollars. They're going to pay money for those subscriptions. And they're going to get Twitter back on the right path. People don't want to go to another platform. But you can't show me a business model where you constantly piss off 50% of people and survive. I'm listening.
Right. Yeah. No, I think you're right, because Twitter, I mean, it has always had an interesting value proposition. And I mean, at its most fundamental, this is probably just, it's like a leveraged buyout of a company that's been run poorly or not run at its maximal over the last however long, 10 years.
You feel like they could have done a lot more with it.
No, 100%. 100%.
Dennis is on Twitter right now shopping for cars.
We always talk about Chipotle in the past, and I'm just looking at the stock price. We had done that case study back in like 2018 when their stock was in the mid 300s. Now they're at 1475.
Explain that one to me.
Oh man, what could have been?
What could have been? It went down to like 250. It might have been like 2015, 2016. It went down to like 250, and they recovered.
They definitely recovered.
I still don't fully understand. It's Chipotle's one of those companies that gets like the tech valuation hype, but they're a food joint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chipotle's going to space.
Yeah.
I just wish Chipotle had cooked my chicken right. Let's figure out these fundamentals. But I think that's what Twitter needs to do, though. On top of like innovation, it's just get back to just being a fair platform for everybody. Get rid of there's ugliness on both sides. Get rid of the ugly, and just make it a good place to have a conversation for everybody. This should be like the free exchange of ideas, healthy debate. Not this is how I think the world should be. And I think that might potentially be, maybe it's like misinterpreted, but when Parag spoke at that MIT thing, it just sounded like we think the world is, or the world's changed and this is how the conversation should be, and that's what we want to like emphasize. I just don't know if that's a very smart idea to do for what we call, town square.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for how Twitter thinks I should live life, for example.
Right.
It reminds me of that Dave Chappelle skit where he walks in to the mall and it like looks like what the internet would look like with all the spam popping up and stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't sign up for that either. So
I don't know. We'll see. How quickly do you think the acquisition goes through?
What if it doesn't?
Right. What if it doesn't? Right. I mean, there's always a possibility that it doesn't, but I feel like this is just moving extremely fast.
What if maybe this is part of the plan? What if the shareholders vote no? What if some ugly things are discovered and he backs out? Like it's that thing in the business world that they say, you shut up until the money's in the bank. Money's not in the bank yet. And then something I learned about being in business, even when the money's in the bank, if the people that paid you the money file bankruptcy within 90 days, the Department of Justice can ask for that money back. So even when the money's in the bank, it's not in the bank. You got to get the check in the bank and then wait 90 days. So when this deal closes and it's been 90 days, we'll say it's done. It's going to be a while. It's going to be a while.
Well, they're saying like the earliest will be the end of the year.
Yeah. I saw, and granted, you can't, I'm not out verifying this stuff because it's not how I'm spending my, what is it, Tuesday? I don't even know what the hell day it is. I'm not spending my Tuesday morning doing a bunch of research on Twitter. But there was tweets, if you like just search on the thing, Twitter or Elon Musk, they were talking about some accounts that were suspended already being restored. So I'm curious to see who they restored and if that trend continues. And does he already have that kind of control where he can say, hey, these are things that we need to start working on, even though the whole thing's not inked.
And that's like it kind of goes to what you guys were saying. Like all of that stuff, I feel like it's like the band-aid. It's the distraction from what, like, if that's as far as this goes, then what a shame, you know, like restoring accounts and all this kind of stuff. Like there's a place for Twitter to be very important. And I hope it's more profound than just that.
It is, but if half your audience is there for accounts that you keep suspending, you lose half your audience.
That's not for sure. Yeah, that's true.
So I just think it's one of those, you get to that point where you don't want to go to places you don't feel welcome.
Yeah.
And here's one of those things. Can you throw away Twitter and not miss a step in your life?
Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
So we can't ever forget that for a moment. When you set up an environment where it's just like, I really don't need this. I don't feel like I'm welcome on this platform. I'm tired of fighting. The people I want to follow aren't here. And they're not even going to go to the other platforms. They're like, I just don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
There's real life happening. And I think that's the issue. And if they don't restore that, once again, show me the business model that's going to work where you only have half the audience. That's where they were heading, and I think he's trying to right the ship on that side.
It's true. Do you think that this makes you're like kind of talking selfish, the employer brand here, but like, does this make Twitter a more attractive place for people to work, or do you think this hurts them with Elon Musk at the helm?
I think there's people that are going to leave, and there's going to be people that didn't want to work there before that will want to work there now.
Just like a bit of churn, yeah.
They'll paint it as he is some super right wing, I can't even come up with words on how they're painting him right now. Let's not forget, this is the guy that went on Joe Rogan and smoked a blunt.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like I think we're getting a little too like putting people into buckets here, and they start painting like he's this person that maybe he's not, because I don't even know who this guy is. Sometimes you ask people like, what do you think of Elon Musk? And they'll say he's weird. Like that's like the best description I can get out of somebody sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But they will paint the picture that no one wants to work for him, and it's like, well, why are they working for him at Tesla? Why are they working for him at SpaceX? So if all these people will go work for him at Tesla and SpaceX, do you think they're not going to go work for him at Twitter?
Yeah, no, that's true. The reason I brought that up, and then actually you make an interesting point there of like putting people in buckets, because I don't know if you guys saw what Jack Dorsey tweeted about Elon and about the deal. Basically, he speaks glowingly about Elon, and he calls Elon the singular solution that he trusts. And I mean, the thing that struck me weird about that comment was like, okay, this guy can do a lot. He's very wealthy. He's obviously got a track record of doing things well, but how we put him on too much of a pedestal, is this like just a little bit too much from a sentiment standpoint? I mean, it is what it is from a
look. There's times that I don't like the dude.
Yeah.
And then there's times that like it's hard to do that in this day and age. You either got to love someone or hate them. There is no like being logical and rational and judging people by each action. It's all or nothing. There's times that I'm like, I don't like what you're doing right now, and then there's times like, okay, that's pretty cool. But when you come down to it, it's like, can you say that as far as a billionaire who's going to buy Twitter, that is somewhat close to the middle, that's going to represent everybody on Twitter, is he not the best solution when it comes to that. Because the last thing you wanted is somebody that's far right or far left getting private control of this thing.
Yeah, fair.
When Dorsey said that, it made me think that Dorsey knew he lost control of Twitter, and he could no longer shape what it was literally taken over, and they were pushing some ideology, and there's nothing he could do to stop it. And I feel like that thought in my head got confirmed when he made that post.
Yeah,
that now somebody can get it back to what I wanted it to be, because he couldn't do it himself as a publicly traded company.
Yeah, that could, and Elon has that track record too. I mean, they always leak his emails and things, right? Of being quite a cutthroat kind of leader. So yeah, probably won't let it sway too far one way or the other if he wants it to be a certain way.
The dude will probably, well, you say this like he'll probably die trying to make it successful, or he'll at least make it look like he almost died trying to like
yeah. That's
how many
true.
hours you work yesterday? Oh, 27. Elon, there's 24 hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the PR release said I worked 27.
Yeah. Elon will find a way to make 27 hours.
Hey man, if they came up with a way for 27, I want 28. Why stop there?
True.
Yeah, it's I'm looking online right now, and it looks like Dorsey recently put out a tweet regarding the regret of the company being owned by Wall Street and the ad model. So I think he's trying to, of course, have saying that Elon's takeover is a good thing, but focusing on the fact that he regrets that it went, that it's owned by Wall Street right now. I think that's probably the best approach for him. I'm not sure if he's getting attacked online, but it seems like that's his take on it.
You realize that means something different today than it meant 20 years ago. Who controlled Wall Street 20 years ago is not who controls Wall Street today.
Right.
And if you really dig into that, it's like, well, political tides have shifted on who really controls Wall Street and the larger corporations in general. And it goes back to, he probably wasn't really able to steer this thing in the direction he wanted it to go. He just lost control. He's like, screw it, I'm out. Maybe he thought it was going to get ran into the ground. Maybe he thought this was going to happen all along. But here we are.
Yeah, you're right. What would have happened to this? I guess they handcuffed themselves when they went public, because you then have to meet user numbers and all that kind of stuff. And even if you did want to clean up the platform, you can't do it. Like, what if you told Wall Street you lost 2 million users because they were all bots or whatever?
That's why this has to be done privately.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
My thought is, and I've been saying this for years, verify everybody on Twitter. You know what? You can be on Twitter without a verified account. You're just not going to be heard by many people.
Tell me about it.
If you want your message to be amplified by the algorithm, you're going to have to be a verified user with your photo and your real name up there. And I think 90% of the garbage stops when that happens. Like LinkedIn, when you see someone's employer and their photo and their name, you don't see people saying all that garbage. You see some, but 10% of what you see probably what you see on Twitter. When you got someone that's got like a cat meme photo and they got some made up name and they're spreading a bunch of hate, yeah, that's going to happen when everyone's anonymous. So verify everybody on Twitter. And I think this cleaning up process is 90% done for you. They learn how to deal with the other 10%. Now we have a community that is of higher value, right? It's get rid of the negativity and the value goes up.
Yeah, true.
But as long as there can be an account out there of a double bacon cheeseburger, talking, hate to everybody, Twitter is going to stay Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, why do I want to get insulted by a cheeseburger today?
and that's where kind of the Web3 NFT, all that kind of like tokenization stuff could be interesting in this space.
I mean, get on blockchain and where some of the stuff's transparent, and you got to track it back to a human being. Like, I don't want to get insulted by Bobby McPatty because, he probably off in some other state or country that's just out there flinging insults all day. And it's like, well, this place doesn't make me feel good. They got to clean that up or the platform dies.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want cheeseburger.
I'm going to reinstate my Twitter account.
I think a lot of people have after yesterday or when the news came out.
Yeah, they're bringing people back to the platform. Hey man, do we fully understand the toll they took with the censorship and what they
Yeah. Yeah. What precedent did that set? Right.
how you handle that? I just think we're going to look back in 10 years and say, we did what?
Yeah.
It's, when we did that, if you read the news in other countries, they're like, what did the United States just do?
Yeah.
And you got to just wonder what a position to be in. Like, there was things being said that shouldn't have been said. How do you win that situation? So,
yeah.
Crazy times, man.
Crazy. I wasn't super pleased with the fast pass experience at Disney the last time I was there. So would you guys help me buy out Disney?
I thought they got rid of fast pass.
No, it's been many years.
There's something else, or I know there's a feature of fast pass. I don't know if it's still fast pass or not, but
I forgot what they call it now. Lightning lanes or something. You got to spend like $15 per person to ride one ride now. So it's like $60, $70 to get on like one ride.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Even more reason that.
Who knows? I don't know. I'll throw a couple bucks in on it.
Thanks.
Just quickly, if you think about it, so Elon bought 9 point something percent of Twitter in early April. Since then, I mean, the stock's up like 30%. So in 1 month, how much money did he make with the stock price going up so high before he's acquiring the company?
I mean, there's a whole bunch of math behind that.
Oh, man.
I think people just see the price now and they don't realize how far the stock was before, how far down it was before he announced that share. It was down quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it spiked up and everyone's like, oh, the $54. It's like, no, look at where it was at before he took his position. It's, they weren't.
Well, he's being sued, right, by people because he disclosed too late.
Yeah. He don't care. He already knows what that penalty is.
He's buying the company to get out of it.
And then they're talking about the earnings coming up on Twitter is going to be not good either. So if it was whatever 30 something before Elon made his investment, what do you think it would have been like after this earnings report? It's again, I'm looking at Parag, like, where was this thing going in 4 or 5 months? It's was not going in the right direction.
I think I read that Parag is going to make about 40 million, and then Jack Dorsey's going to make just short of $1 billion with this acquisition. So I thought they'd make off okay.
I think they're gonna be okay. All right, that's all I got. I'll catch you guys.